Okay, so we are going to do some 3D movements to understand kind of Z-space and how cameras work. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab, I'm just going to start a new composition. We'll just name it, I'm just going to right click here, and I'll rename this main scene. Okay, and then I'm going to go find a file here, and I'm going to find a file that has high-level layers in it. And so when I import this, I want to import it to composition retain layer sizes. And so I'll click on that, change import as to composition retain layer sizes. Click open, and what that does is that brings in the scene, right, as a composition, but also each layer as its own thing. And so just for this, I'm just going to drag a few of these into this main scene composition. And so let's grab like the house and the sun and a cloud or something. Okay. And so if I grab this, and the next thing that I want to do is I want to make sure that I change all of these into 3D elements. And so if you look at position right now, you have X and Y. As soon as I hit this button, it now turns it into X, Y, and Z. So you can see the 3 different elements. And also, I can rotate on different axes, instead of, so I've got Z rotation, Y rotation, X rotation. Okay, so that's the changes. In here, you can see that there's now a Z and X and a Y to the anchor point, okay, whereas before it was just XY. Okay, then down here at the bottom of your preview window, I want to change this from 1 view to 4 views. Okay, so now I have a top view, an active camera, the right view, and the front. Kind of ignore the front, and what we're going to do is we're going to add this camera. So I'm going to go to Layer, New, Camera, and you can kind of choose whatever you want. You know, the smaller the number, the wider the angle, just like a normal camera. And I like having this locked because then you don't also have to deal with zoom. Okay, then I click OK, and you'll notice that it adds that camera here. Okay, and so now my active camera is going to be whatever this camera points at. So before we deal with the camera, let's get these 3 things kind of separated. And so on the right and the top, you'll notice that they just take up kind of a single line. And so I'm going to go in here, and I'll just zoom in so you can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to move them in Z-space. So I'm going to move them forward. Okay, I'll grab the next one. So I'll grab the house, and we'll move that back. Okay, and I'll grab the next one. It should be like, what is this? That's the sun. Okay, so let's put the sun behind the house, but I also want to move it up, so I can move it up like this. Okay, and then because the cloud is so small, I'm going to move it forward, but I'm also going to scale it up. So I'm going to hit S, and I can just scale this to be bigger. Okay, so now we have these 3 elements, and you'll notice when I highlight all 3 of them that they show up at different levels of Z-space. So on the right side, as we're looking at the side of this, you'll see that they're separated along the Z-axis. Okay? Okay, now what we want to do is, for right now, I'm just going to lock those 3 down so that I can't accidentally click on them. And then I'm going to work with my camera. Now, there's 2 things about the camera that we need to be paying attention to. The point of interest and the position. Okay, the position is where the camera is, physical location. Consider that to be the tripod legs. Okay, and so if you move the tripod, the camera moves. The point of interest is what the camera is pointed at. Okay, and those 2 controls are controlled by this. This right back here, let me zoom in again. Okay, this controls your tripod legs, which is your position of your camera. This thing controls what your camera is pointed at, the point of interest, or what you would call, you know, the focus. Okay, and so if I move this up or down, you can see that in my active camera plane, it's moving up and down. If I go over here to the top view and I move it left or right, you can see it's moving to the left or the right. So if I keep this here and I swing my camera around like this and then I point back at it, you can see that those are separated. So I might want to separate my sun even more. So I'm going to grab this sun here. Where's the sun? Oh, because it's locked. Let's unlock the sun and we'll grab it and throw it even further back so that we can really see that separation. Okay, so if I just want to move in 3D space, I can just get point of interest and position and turn those on and then move my playhead, and then I can move my camera around. So I'm going to move my camera like this, okay? And if I keep my point of interest where it is by deleting this keyframe, then as I play through the position, you'll notice in the top pane here that it continues to point at the same thing. Okay, so I can come over here like this, zoom out a little bit more, I can move this over, I can delete this keyframe, okay, and it continues to point at that thing. And so now it just swings around. And so if you're looking to move stuff in Z-space, that's really all you need to do is just that. So I'm just going to do a little bit more just to kind of show. So if I want to come in here and at this point I want it to look down, then I can lower my view and I can raise my angle, right? And then it's going to kind of fly through those and go up and down and around and whatever else. And so that's just a real quick basic rundown of the camera. So it's position and point of interest. Now, if you want to get slightly more complicated or control things a little bit better, you can go in and go Layer, New, Null Object. And a null object is just a nothing object. It doesn't exist. It won't render out, but it has controls. And so if I want to do something like take position, right-click, and go separate dimensions, and on the Y, I can alt-click and I can add a wiggle expression somewhere, property, wiggle, okay, and I can say like once a second, you know, I want you to go up and down, I don't know, 45 pixels. Okay, then you'll see that that null object is bouncing. So if we look just right here, this null object kind of just bounces up and down, right? And so as that's bouncing up and down, I can take my camera position, right-click, separate dimensions, and I can take Y and I can pick whip that to this. And now, as I fly through, the camera itself bounces up and down a little bit. Or should. So that's kind of a crash course on how to do that. So if you have any other questions, you can go watch my AI to AE playlist videos, and those will help you guys out, and we'll catch you later.